Have you ever been scrolling through your feed, maybe late at night, and you just feel this sudden weird shiver run down your spine? You know the feeling. It happens when the algorithm suddenly drops a post or a product right in your lap that you have literally only ever thought about. You haven't spoken it out loud, you definitely haven't typed it into a search bar, but boom, there it is, just staring right back at you. Honestly, it's a profoundly unsettling experience.
First off, I want to validate that eerie experience for you right now. Because listen, you are not crazy. It really does feel like the machine is literally reading your mind, reflecting back a version of you that you might not have even admitted to yourself yet. But here's the thing, this isn't just some random data coincidence. We're actually looking at a deeply profound modern psychological phenomenon. We can call it the Jungian Mirror in the machine. And today, we're going to break down exactly how this whole thing works.
So, here is the roadmap for this explainer. We're going to bridge some slightly unsettling psychological theory with a highly practical guide for personal self-reflection. First, we'll look at the mind-reading machine itself. Then, we'll identify your digital masks. Third, we'll expose the digital shadow. And finally, we'll dive into radical self-honesty and individuation.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the mind-reading machine. To understand what's happening behind the screen, we've got to look at the foundational work of the famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung.
So Jung famously believed that our minds are basically like a giant iceberg. The tiny little tip above the water, well, that's our conscious awareness. That's the stuff we actively think and know about ourselves. But underneath the surface, there's this massive, hidden, submerged world called the unconscious. And this is exactly where the modern digital age enters the chat. The machine, meaning our social feeds and these hyper-advanced ranking algorithms, has essentially evolved into a highly sophisticated tool that probes those hidden depths. It acts as a digital mirror for the exact parts of ourselves we usually try to keep buried.
Which brings us to part two, identifying your digital masks. Because the very first layer of this digital mirror reflects back something super specific.
Jung actually called this the persona. Think of the persona as the mask we wear just to look acceptable to society. It's our constant, exhausting effort to show the world the character we want to be rather than who we actually are deep down. I mean, think about it. Your highly polished Instagram grid or that impeccably professional LinkedIn profile, that is the ultimate modern persona.
To really make this concrete, let's look at the classic story of a guy named Fred. So, Fred spent his entire life being the nice guy. He constantly agreed with everyone, he repressed his own actual opinions, and he hid his true feelings simply because he was desperate to be liked and accepted by the people around him. Fred's entire existence basically became a performance of his persona. And honestly, on social media, we're all playing the role of Fred, right? We're meticulously curating everything we post just to ensure we appear acceptable, agreeable, and successful to our digital peers.
But here's the catch. Forcing this mask creates what is known as a crater of incongruency. When we only show our feeds this polished, completely fake version of ourselves, we become deeply alienated from our true nature. We literally lose touch with who we are when the cameras are off. And this disconnect, it leads directly to a profound sense of aimlessness and what's called an informed melancholy. You know that feeling where you're incredibly sad and disconnected, even though on paper your digital life looks absolutely perfect? That's the crater.
So let's peel back the next layer. Part 3, exposing the digital shadow. Because while you are incredibly busy polishing up your persona for the world, the machine is watching something else entirely.
The algorithm is actually tracking your shadow. Jung defined the shadow as all the repressed, denied, and unknown content that our ego just absolutely refuses to identify with. We're talking about your secret fears, your petty envies, your highly controversial or unpopular interests. Listen, the machine doesn't care one single bit about your nice person mask. It only cares about watch time. It notices when you secretly linger on a video of someone you claim to strongly dislike. It notices when you crave the absurdity and chaos of the world, and it just feeds those repressed desires straight back into your brain. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of our entire digital lives. On one side, you've got your persona. It's polished, it's agreeable, it's totally appropriate. But on the other side, you have your shadow, driven by secret fears, total absurdity, and chaos. By catering exclusively to the shadow just to maximize engagement, the algorithm often ends up knowing us far better than we know ourselves. It completely bypasses that carefully curated identity you worked so hard on.
The danger here is absolutely immense. It creates this vicious feedback loop where we aren't even in the driver's seat of our own minds anymore. We seriously risk becoming like a brain in a vat, where our very perceptions and desires are just being modeled, stimulated, and dictated by a digital swamp of spam-like media. Instead of pursuing real human flourishing, we become driven entirely by profitability and ranking metrics. We start subconsciously asking ourselves, well, what will the ranking algorithm favor, instead of asking, what actually lights me up? It is a guaranteed recipe for losing your humanity to a machine.
So how do we fix this? Let's get into part 4, radical self-honesty and individuation. How do we break the mirror and actually get back in the driver's seat?
Jung suggested a process called individuation. In fact, he considered this the fundamental goal of life itself. It's the process of integrating our conscious mind, our persona, and our unconscious mind, our shadow, into one unified self. It requires us to stop trying to, pull ourselves up by our own hair in this totally futile attempt to perfect our fake digital lives. Instead, we have to begin actually integrating these fractured, hidden parts of our identity.
So, to do this, let's look at a practical, step-by-step guide for personal self-reflection. Step 1, you have to identify your digital masks. Take a hard, honest look at your online presence. Where are you forcing a persona? Where are you acting like nice guy Fred just for a few likes and some professional approval? You've got to acknowledge the mask first. Then, step 2, practice radical self-honesty. You have to commit to being brutally honest about what you actually desire, what you truly fear, and exactly what parts of your shadow that algorithm has been successfully feeding on. You just have to stop trying to be the person the algorithm wants you to be.
Just let that sit for a second. The famous writer Charles Bukowski actually had this exact phrase carved onto his tombstone: "Don't try." It's a completely counterintuitive philosophy, but it's exactly what we need right now. Don't try to want what you don't actually want. If you find that you constantly have to force yourself to care about your digital status, your follower count, or keeping up a perfectly curated aesthetic, maybe you just don't actually care about it. And you know what? That is completely okay. Stop trying.
The true path forward here is to completely abandon living for that cheap thrill of digital approval. We've got to reconnect with our silenced gut feelings, that internal human navigation system that our technology has tried so incredibly hard to mute. We must embrace the hilarious, totally enthralling absurdity of just being a real human being, living your real, messy life on this strange, lushly coated wet rock floating through space.
Now, if you want to continue this journey of self-examination and you want to navigate this age of digital hopelessness to become a bloomer instead of a doomer, I highly recommend checking out the sponsor of this explainer, Blinkist. The link is right down in the description. Blinkist is this amazing tool that lets you absorb the really profound insights of thinkers like Carl Jung and Friedrich Nietzsche in just a fraction of the time. It is literally the perfect way to build a reading roadmap for your own authentic life, helping you experience the world with total clarity and wonder instead of just algorithmic anxiety.
So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to carry with you the very next time you open an app on your phone. Strip away the persona. Ignore the shadow the machine is so desperately trying to feed. And ask yourself honestly, what lights you up instead of the algorithm? Just keep asking yourself that question, and you just might find your way back to yourself.